Hi, you're very welcome to watching this replay. So what I put up tonight is public system and health system in crisis. And it is. The nurses are on strike. Psychiatric nurses are working full time. They're not doing overtime, which is putting pressure on their system. The GPs went on strike on Wednesday. And it's just morale is so low. And they say they want more pay and working conditions. And I want to share with you a story about something that happened last week when the nurses went on strike. And it was just a coincidence, but my friend was in hospital and she had to go for an operation. And she was frightened and she wanted to get home to her family. And all she wanted to know was when she was going for her operation. And in the grand scheme of things and priorities, it wasn't high priority. She was in a lot of pain, but it wasn't a high priority. And all she wanted to know was, as I said, when she went to theatre. And she told me that the nurse had phoned down to theatre and theatre had said, we'll phone you back when she's ready. And I remembered back to when in the hospital. And sometimes you can get your work done for all the phone calls coming in, and they were genuine. How's my mother? How's my father? How's my wife? My husband? And I get that, we want to know how everyone's doing. And that was before people had mobile phones, were allowed to use them in the hospital. A lot of people had them. So that was happening. But going back to my friend, she wanted to know when she was going to theatre. Because as soon as she got to theatre, as soon as she got discharged and home. And I thought of theatre and I thought, imagine if every ward's phoning, a lot of wards in the hospital, one theatre, when's my patient? Kind of irritating for the nurses. But my friend just wanted to know when she was going to theatre, and it got me thinking about communication and how communication is so important, and how the government needs to talk to the nurses. This is not going to be sorted out by them on the big lines and the government ignoring them. It's not possible. Simon Harris, you need to listen to them. Nothing was solved by putting up walls and not talking. So there's that. And also an increase in wages. An increase in wages is needed, and they say there's not enough money. And my argument would be, and this was borne out in Davos Mental Health Forum last week, which I shared the video, which showed that the cost of sickness is, I don't know how much more. So if you start looking after the nurses and everyone else, and you support them, because it's not just about acknowledging, it's about the communication, and it's about kindness. Because it used to be times that you're like, what will you'd phone down, just wondering when, we'll let you know. It wouldn't have cost anything to say, look, there's a couple of people, and it depended who you got. So it wouldn't have cost anything for them to say, look, 2 or 3 patients in front. So maybe around this time, if nothing happens. So you get a rough idea and you're able to tell the patient that. And that might not seem like much. When you're lying there and you're wondering, when are they going to come and get me? And you're worrying about your family and how they are doing. It doesn't cost much, and it doesn't cost anything to be kind. Well, I think nurses and doctors, they're a breaking point. And I know when I worked in the health system that I was staring and you between what you expected and what you could give, so your values, so it was having an impact. It was draining and it was toxic. But if we have an environment where nurses are appreciated and doctors, because the more I read, the more I realize actually nurses and doctors just want to be treated with kindness and respect and acknowledged. You've done a good job there. And I would love if everyone had the opportunity to sit down with their manager and had a chat about how their life is. Because when you feel listened to, and the World Health Organization has done the research, the Health and Safety Authority, it's all there. When staff feel they're listened to, they're supported, they have a choice in their work, it makes a huge, huge difference. Life's not straightforward, but nurses and doctors every day are looking after our relatives, and we need to look after them. So have a think about when you're phoning or a family member is phoning up. Nominate one person in that family to phone and then talk amongst yourselves, pass in. Much better and much more supportive. It can be very lonely when you're working as a staff nurse and you're thinking of all the things that need to be done for your patients. It can be very difficult. It's a tough, tough job. And we need to acknowledge that, and we need to pay our nurses. And we also need to look at, well, I'm doing this job. Could somebody else do this to let me do other things? We need to look at the whole health system, because I know just now it's not working. And that's why everyone's on strike. And those that can't go on strike, morale is pretty low. So have a thought about all those nurses, doctors, paramedics, physios, OTs, everyone that helps get you better. And you know what? A please and a thank you goes a very long way. Thank you, doctor. Thank you, nurse. Even use their first names. All people want is to feel valued. And if they're maybe a little bit short with you, well, just remember, nurses are not superhuman. They are human beings who decide to go into nursing, as do doctors. We're human. We're not perfect. And do we make mistakes? Yes, of course they do. That happens. But if we reduce the amount of hours that they're working and paid them and looked at the pay and looked at the working conditions, that would make such a difference. Because that's all any of us want to be, is loved and feel that we belong. So support your nurses and doctors. Keep striking, and I would urge the Department of Health, speak to the nurses and the doctors and help them, because the hospital system is a crisis point, and they might have some suggestions of how you can change things. They work the system. They know what could help. So have a think about it. And I want to thank you for watching this replay. If you have any comments, please send them to me. Much appreciated. And be kind. It doesn't cost anything.